The feast that shook the galaxy asterisk. The twin suns of Vorvaxia hung low on the horizon, casting streaks of amber and crimson light across the dense jungle. In the center of a wide clearing, a spectacle unlike any other unfolded. A growlker, its body a colossal mass of muscle, scales, and talons, hung skewered on a spit crafted from metal beams scavenged from the human outpost. The air was thick with the scent of roasted meat, an aroma both intoxicating and primal. Dr. Alara Cade stood near the fire, wiping soot from her face. Her dark hair was tied back in a loose braid, streaked with ash and sweat. She glanced at the massive carcass, the creature's once fearsome rows of fangs now harmless and glistening with juices as the heat worked its magic. The growlker had terrorized the team for weeks, its piercing cries and relentless hunts turning every night into a battle for survival. But tonight they had flipped the script. "Well," muttered Lieutenant Riker, the security officer, flipping a makeshift grill plate with a piece of whole metal. "If this doesn't scream human audacity, I don't know what does." Alara smirked, tossing a small chunk of sizzling meat onto his plate. "Audacity? Call it adaptation. What's the saying? If something tries to eat you, eat it first." The crew gathered around the fire, plates in hand, some leaning against their rifles, others still shaking their heads in disbelief. They were a ragtag group of scientists, engineers, and soldiers, the best humanity had to offer. Their outpost, a cluster of prefabricated modules perched precariously on the edge of a jungle cliff, had been a gamble from the start. No one expected the planet to fight back with such ferocity. "Still can't believe it," murmured Dr. McHalvorn, the team's ecologist. He poked at the fire, watching the embers spark. "This thing is the apex predator of the planet. Took down 2 Zerkar gunships in orbit, and here we are, eating it. Would you rather it had eaten us?" Alara quipped, earning a few chuckles from the group. The mood was buoyant, but beneath it ran a current of exhaustion. The growlker hunt had been grueling. It wasn't just the creature's size, easily 5 times that of a polar bear, or its razor-sharp claws. It was its intelligence. The team had studied it from afar, noting how it set traps, ambushed prey, and communicated in eerie, low-frequency growls. Killing it had required every ounce of ingenuity and teamwork they could muster. "Let's toast," Riker said, raising a battered metal cup filled with water purified from the jungle stream. "To survival. And to proving the galaxy wrong, again." The group raised their cups, murmuring agreements. Suddenly, the unmistakable hum of a drone filled the air. Alara stiffened, scanning the treetops. "Incoming," she muttered. A sleek, silver orb zipped into view, hovering a few meters above the clearing. Its lens adjusted with a soft whir, focusing on the roasted growlker. "Great," Alara said, rolling her eyes. "Alien paparazzi." The Zerkar Coalition had sent drones to monitor humanity's activities on Vorvaxia. They claimed it was to ensure environmental compliance. But everyone knew it was surveillance, pure and simple. "Think they're impressed?" Riker asked, flashing a cocky grin at the drone as he tore into a piece of meat. "Oh, they're impressed, all right," Alara replied. "But not in a good way." Above the jungle, aboard the Zerkar flagship Zeranis, General Yorick's claws clicked against the command table as he replayed the footage. The growlker's lifeless body spinning over the fire filled the screen, the humans laughing and feasting like victorious predators. "They're eating it?" Yorick's voice was laced with disgust and disbelief. His scales darkened, a sign of growing fury. "Yes, General," replied one of his subordinates, a nervous young officer whose frills quivered under Yorick's glare. "Barbarians," Yorick spat. "No respect for the sanctity of this world. Do they not understand what they've done? The humans claimed the growlker was a threat to their survival," the officer said cautiously. "A threat?" Yorick's voice rose. "The growlker is a sacred apex species, vital to the balance of Vorvaxia's ecosystem. They've disrupted the entire—" "General," another officer interrupted, her voice calm but firm. "The footage has already gone viral. The galactic network is flooded with reactions. Fear, fascination, outrage. The humans have the galaxy's attention. Yorick growled, his claws digging into the table's edge. Then it's time we remind them that this is not their galaxy to claim. Prepare a formal condemnation. And mobilize the fleet. Back on Vorvaxia, Alara sat on a fallen tree, gazing into the fire. The feast was winding down, the crew dispersing to their quarters. The jungle hummed with life, the distant calls of alien creatures mixing with the crackle of flames. Do you think we overdid it? Mikhail asked, sitting beside her. You mean with the roasting spectacle? Alara replied, raising an eyebrow. Maybe. But let them watch. Let them see what it takes to survive out here. Mikhail frowned. You know they won't see it that way. The aliens don't understand us. They don't see survival, they see aggression. Chaos. Alara sighed, leaning back. Let them misunderstand. Let them be afraid. Fear keeps us alive. A faint chime echoed from her wrist. Calm. Alara glanced down, her heart sinking. The signal was clear, priority communication from the outpost's orbital relay. She tapped the interface, and a holographic screen blinked to life, displaying the face of Commander Lane, their liaison aboard the human fleet's nearest ship. Alara, Lane said, her tone grim. We've got a situation. The aliens aren't happy about your culinary experiment. The Zirkar are preparing to make a move. They're calling for sanctions, possibly even a planetary blockade. Alara clenched her fists. Over a meal? Lane's expression darkened. You know it's more than that. They see this as an affront to their principles, to their view of the galaxy. You've rattled them, Alara. And rattled enemies don't think rationally. Let them come, Riker interjected, stepping into view. We've dealt with worse than a bunch of bureaucrats and drones. Lane shot him a pointed look. This isn't just politics, Riker. They're talking military action. We need to tread carefully. The survival of this mission, and humanity's reputation, depends on it. Alara nodded slowly. Understood. But make no mistake, we didn't come here to hide. If they want to challenge us, they'll see exactly what humans are made of. As Lane's transmission ended, Alara stood and looked around the clearing. The fire had burned low, the remains of the Growlker now just bones and ash. The jungle seemed to hold its breath, as if aware of the storm brewing in the stars above. Get some rest, she told the crew. Tomorrow, we figure out how to survive them too. And as she turned toward the shadowy edges of the jungle, she couldn't help but wonder, not for the first time, if humanity's greatest strength was also its most dangerous trait, its refusal to back down. The Clash of Cultures *. The council chamber aboard the Zirkar flagship Zeranis hummed with tension. General Yorick loomed at the center, his sharp features etched in disapproval as holograms of the coalition delegates flickered to life around him. Representing a dozen species, the council radiated a mix of outrage, curiosity, and unease. The footage of the human feast, looping endlessly across the galactic networks, played behind Yorick. The image of humans gnawing on the charred ribs of the Growlker was almost too much for some delegates to bear. This is an affront to all civilized species, a slender, crystalline envoy from the Lurvan Collective hissed, her tones sharp and high-pitched. The Growlker is no mere beast. It is a keystone predator, a creature revered for its role in Vorvaxia's balance. The humans have desecrated it. General Yorick nodded solemnly, addressing the council. Let us not forget the sheer recklessness of humanity's actions. First, they establish an unauthorized outpost on Vorvaxia, then they slay its most sacred species, and now they broadcast their barbarity across the galaxy for all to see. This cannot stand. A deep, rumbling voice interrupted. Sacred or not, General, it's still a predator. The speaker was Ambassador Lorik of the Gorvin, a stocky, armored species known for their pragmatic outlook. His eyes glinted with something close to amusement. The humans only did what was necessary to survive. Would you have them let the Growlker hunt them into extinction? Yorick's frills quivered, but before he could respond, another voice cut in. Survival is one thing. Turning the Growlker into a feast is another, said the Zirkar diplomat, her tone clipped and precise. This behavior is dangerous, chaotic. If unchecked, humans could destabilize not just Vorvaxia, but other worlds as well. The debate raged on, each species contributing their opinions, but one sentiment remained consistent: humanity was unpredictable, and unpredictability was dangerous. It wasn't long before the discussion shifted to action. "What do you propose, General?" the Lurvan envoy asked, her crystalline structure glowing faintly with irritation. Yorick straightened, his claws tapping against the podium. "A planetary blockade. Cut off their supplies. Starve them out if necessary. Humanity must be taught that their actions have consequences." "Starve us out? That's rich." A sharp voice echoed across the chamber as another hologram flared to life. Dr. Alara Cade, appearing via transmission from the human outpost, folded her arms as she stepped into view. Her expression was calm, but her eyes burned with defiance. The chamber fell silent. Even the Lurvan envoy tilted her crystalline head in curiosity. Yorick's frills flared in frustration. "Dr. Cade," he growled, "this is a private council session." "Private? You mean a trial where the accused isn't even invited to defend themselves?" Alara shot back. "Lucky for you, I intercepted the signal. Now, let's set the record straight." Yorick glared at her, his voice sharp as a blade. "You have no place here, human. Your actions on Vorvaxia speak for themselves." "Oh, they speak, all right," Alara retorted. "But you're only hearing what you want to hear. So let me clarify, yes, we killed the Growlker. Yes, we ate it. Not because we're barbaric, but because we had no choice. That thing hunted us every night for weeks. We lost 2 crew members to it, people who had families back home. And you think we're the problem?" The chamber buzzed with murmurs, some delegates nodding thoughtfully while others bristled at her tone. The Gorvan ambassador leaned forward. "And yet you didn't just kill it. You made a spectacle of it. Why?" Alara took a breath, steadying herself. "Because survival isn't just about living. It's about showing strength. The Growlker wasn't just a predator, it was a symbol of this planet's hostility. By taking it down, we proved we belong here. We proved we can adapt, just like any other species that's dared to step beyond its homeworld." "And the ecosystem?" the Zirkar diplomat pressed. "What of the balance you've disrupted by removing the Growlker?" "We didn't disrupt anything," Alara replied, her tone firm. "We've been studying this planet since we landed. The Growlker's population is large enough to withstand the loss of one individual. If anything, we've given its prey species a brief reprieve. That's how ecosystems work: predators and prey, checks and balances." Yorick sneered. "Spare us your lectures, human. Your kind has a history of destroying ecosystems, not preserving them. What assurance do we have that you won't do the same to Vorvaxia?" Alara locked eyes with him, unflinching. "You want assurances? Look at our track record. Humanity didn't reach the stars by conquering. We got here by adapting, by learning, by surviving. We don't destroy ecosystems, we integrate with them. That's why we're still alive, even after everything this planet has thrown at us." The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling over the council. But Yorick was not ready to concede. "You speak boldly, Dr. Cade," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "But words mean little when your actions speak louder. Humanity's recklessness cannot go unchecked. If the Council will not act, I will." "Act?" Alara raised an eyebrow. "What exactly are you planning, General? Blockades? Sanctions? An invasion? Because I'll tell you right now, none of that will stop us. You think we're reckless because we're different, because we don't fit into your neat little boxes of what's civilized. But that's your problem, not ours." The Gorvan ambassador chuckled, a deep, rumbling sound. "You've got fire, human. I'll give you that." Alara glanced at him, her expression softening slightly. "It's not fire. It's survival. Something every species here understands, even if you don't want to admit it." The Lurvan envoy tilted her head, her crystalline body shimmering faintly. "And yet, survival is not an excuse for arrogance. Your kind has a great deal to prove, Dr. Cade. Then let us prove it, Elara said, her voice calm but resolute. Don't judge us by one act of desperation. Judge us by what we build, by how we coexist with this planet and its creatures. Give us the chance to show you what humanity is capable of. The room fell quiet again, the delegates exchanging uncertain glances. Yorick's claws clicked against the table, his frustration evident. But before he could speak, the Gorvan ambassador raised a hand. Let them stay, he said, his tone firm. Let them prove themselves. If they fail, the planet will deal with them long before we have to. The council erupted in debate, voices overlapping in a cacophony of opinions. Elara watched, her heart pounding. She had made her case, but the outcome was far from certain. Back on Vorvaxia, the jungle buzzed with life as the crew gathered around the comm station, anxiously awaiting the council's decision. Elara leaned against the console, exhaustion creeping in. Riker approached, handing her a cup of water. Think they'll let us stay? He asked. They have to, Elara replied, though the uncertainty in her voice betrayed her confidence. If they don't, we'll just have to survive without their permission. Like we always do. The jungle seemed to listen, its shadowy depths hiding dangers both known and unknown. And as the crew braced for what came next, one thing was clear: humanity's fight for a place among the stars had only just begun. Proving humanity's place asterisk. The jungle pulsed with the rhythmic hum of alien life, a symphony of chirps, growls, and rustling foliage that seemed to echo humanity's precarious position on Vorvaxia. Dr. Elara Cade stood at the edge of the camp, scanning the horizon as the setting sun drenched the sky in vivid hues of crimson and violet. Behind her, the camp buzzed with activity. Supplies were inventoried, perimeter defenses reinforced, and research continued as though the crew could will themselves to stay, no matter the council's verdict. Dr. Cade. Riker's voice broke her focus. He jogged up, wiping sweat from his brow, a cautious optimism in his eyes. Message just came through from the council. You're going to want to hear this. Elara followed him to the comm station, her heart pounding. The room was crowded with the crew, their faces a mixture of hope and fear. The hologram flared to life, and General Yorick's imposing figure loomed before them. His expression was unreadable. The council has reached a decision, Yorick began, his voice cold. After extensive deliberation, it has been determined that your presence on Vorvaxia will be tolerated under strict conditions. You are to cease all predatory activities unless under direct threat. You will establish a dedicated ecological oversight team to ensure minimal disruption to the planet's balance. Any violation of these terms will result in immediate expulsion, or worse. Murmurs rippled through the crew. Relief, frustration, and defiance swirled in equal measure. Elara stepped forward, her gaze steady. Understood, General. And we'll comply. But know this, we're not here to pillage this planet. We're here to coexist with it. Yorick's eyes narrowed. See that you do. For now, humanity has earned a temporary reprieve. Do not squander it. The transmission ended, leaving the room in a stunned silence. Riker broke it with a low whistle. Temporary reprieve. Not exactly a ringing endorsement. Elara crossed her arms. It's a start. Now we just have to prove them wrong. The following weeks marked a turning point for the crew. Under Elara's leadership, they pivoted from survival mode to integration. Teams ventured deeper into the jungle, cataloging flora and fauna, identifying symbiotic relationships, and developing ways to coexist with the planet's natural rhythms. One of their first challenges came in the form of the scythe vines, a predatory plant species with tendrils that lashed out to ensnare prey. Crew members had already lost 2 drones to the vines, and venturing near them risked the same fate. We can't avoid them forever, Riker said during a strategy meeting. Half the planet's resources are beyond the vine fields. Then we figure out how to neutralize them without causing ecological damage, Elara replied. She turned to Nadia, their xenobiologist. Thoughts? Nadia adjusted her glasses, pulling up holographic data. The vines respond to movement and heat. If we can mimic a predator to distract them, we might be able to pass safely. The solution came in the form of decoy drones, small, heat-emitting devices that mimicked the movements of prey animals. Deploying them was nerve-wracking, the jungle alive with the hiss of scythe vines striking at the decoys as the crew carefully navigated through the field. When they reached the other side unscathed, cheers erupted. "Score 1 for human ingenuity," Riker said, clapping Nadia on the back. The crew's adaptability didn't go unnoticed. Observers from the Council, sent to monitor their compliance, reported back with reluctant approval. The humans were resourceful, determined, and most importantly, capable of learning. One evening, as the crew gathered around the campfire, the weight of their situation seemed to ease. Laughter echoed through the clearing as stories were shared, and for the first time since landing, there was a sense of normalcy. "Remember when we thought the Growlker was just a shadow?" one crew member said, grinning. "Man, we were so naive." Elara smiled faintly, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She gazed at the stars, wondering how many other species had faced moments like this, moments where survival meant proving your worth not just to yourself, but to the galaxy at large. Her musings were interrupted by an urgent call from the perimeter guards. "Dr. Cade, you're going to want to see this." Elara and Riker rushed to the edge of the camp, where the guards were pointing to the jungle. A massive creature emerged from the shadows, its golden eyes glowing in the moonlight. It was another Growlker, larger than the one they had killed. The crew froze, tension crackling in the air. Weapons were raised, but Elara held up a hand. "Wait." The Growlker didn't attack. Instead, it regarded them with a curious tilt of its head. It sniffed the air, then let out a low, rumbling growl, not a threat, but a warning. "It's testing us," Nadia whispered. "Seeing if we're a threat." Elara nodded slowly. "Hold your fire. Let's see what it does." The Growlker stepped closer, its massive frame casting a shadow over the camp. For a moment it locked eyes with Elara. Then, with a final growl, it turned and disappeared into the jungle. "What just happened?" Riker asked, his voice hushed. Elara exhaled, her shoulders relaxing. "I think it was acknowledging us. Like it knows we're part of the ecosystem now." The encounter with the Growlker marked a shift in the crew's perception of the planet, and themselves. They weren't just surviving anymore, they were becoming part of Vorvaxia's intricate web of life. Their efforts to adapt continued to bear fruit. They developed a symbiotic relationship with the Korvok beetles, whose bioluminescent trails acted as natural guides through the dense jungle. They learned to cultivate edible fungi that thrived in the planet's unique soil. Even the scythe vines, once a deadly obstacle, became an asset when their sap was discovered to have potent medicinal properties. Reports of their progress reached the Council, sparking debate. Some delegates saw the humans as a success story, proof that even the most unpredictable species could find a place in the galactic community. Others remained wary, citing humanity's history of conflict and resource exploitation. But the humans didn't concern themselves with the politics. They focused on building a future on Vorvaxia, one that respected the planet's balance while carving out a space for themselves. Months later, Elara stood on a ridge overlooking the jungle. The camp had grown into a thriving settlement, a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. Riker joined her, handing her a cup of the local fungal brew they'd come to enjoy. "Hard to believe we started with nothing but scraps and desperation," he said, taking a sip. Elara smiled. "It's what we do. Adapt. Survive. Thrive." The jungle stretched before them, alive with the sounds of countless creatures. Somewhere in the distance, a Growlker roared, a reminder of the planet's challenges, but also its possibilities. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in fiery hues, Elara felt a quiet pride. Humanity had proven its place on Vorvaxia, not as conquerors, but as participants in the planet's grand, untamed dance. And for the first time in a long while, the stars felt a little closer.